Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, The Boss's Way. In today's video we're going to take a look at another Rocket On deck, which is one of my favourite formats in all of Pokemon, and it's one of my most favourite decks and one of my first Rocket On decks that I built, and that is Blaine's Arcanine. So this deck was quite popular at the start of the format back in the day, but then kind of faded off as the format went on, with Feraligatr just becoming so dominant and obviously then hitting Arcanine for weakness as well. So, but it's still a really fun deck, and it can still go and give Arcanine, or give Feraligatr a run for its money with certain cards in the deck, but obviously it's still a tough matchup, but still not totally unwinnable, and it's still a lot of fun to play. So without further ado, let's jump into the deck. So we are starting off, no surprise, Rocket On, with 4 copies of Cleffa. Pretty standard for Rocket On. These are Japanese Cleffa, just to, again, when you're building so many decks, it's a bit cheaper when you don't buy English versions of cards. If we can see it there okay guys, and Japanese cards tend to be cheaper, so 4 copies of Cleffa. Again, that shuffle draw 7, just so good. And then the baby rule, you know, it can be really annoying for your opponent to deal with, stopping them from attacking. So we play 4 copies of our Cleffa, pretty standard. We then play a 4-3 line of Blaine's Growlithe, Blaine's Arcanine, which is our, I suppose, star of the show here, Blaine's Arcanine. But first, let's look at Blaine's Growlithe. Stoke for fire energy, search deck for fire, and attached to Blaine's Growlithe. Pretty good at energy acceleration. You'll see that Blaine's Arcanine requires 3 energy to attack, so 3 for its first attack, and so Stoke's really good. Body Slam, and then flip a coin of heads, defend a Pokemon is now paralysed. Pretty expensive attack for 20. You'd never use this unless you were super stuck, if you couldn't find your Arcanines or something. So there's our 4 copies of Blaine's Growlithe, 40 hit points. Really like the art in this card as well. Okay, now the star of the show, or the main attacker of the deck, is Blaine's Arcanine, 90 hit points. Beautiful card, one of my favourite. Can't really do it justice under this camera, but just beautiful card. Heat Tackle for fire and 2 colours, does 10 damage to itself and 40 to the active Pokemon you're attacking into. We do play Metal Energy, which does reduce our damage output to 30, but then also stops us from taking 10 damage to ourselves, so that's obviously an option for us as well. Then for Firestorm, 4 fire energy, we discard 3 fire energy cards attached to Blaine's Arcanine in order to use this attack. And you're hitting for 120, which pretty much one hit KOs everything in the format. So obviously 4 energy is quite a lot, so we do have an energy accelerator in the Cyndaquil line that we're about to see next. So let's jump into that. Blaine's Arcanine, one of my favourite cards ever printed. Fabulous art, and it's a really good card as well in the format. So let's look now at Cyndaquil. So 50 hit points. We choose this Cyndaquil. There's other Cyndaquils as well. I think the other one is a 40 hit point one, and there might even be another one after that as well, or maybe I'm thinking of Neon. But there's definitely another one with 40 hit points. But we go for the 50 hit point one, and it has Fireworks for fire. Flip a coin of tails. Discard 1 energy attached to Cyndaquil, and does 20 damage. And then for double colourless, quick attack, flip a coin of heads, this attack does 10 more, 10 damage plus 20 more damage, and if tails, it just does 10. Again, you're never really going to want to see Cyndaquil in the active at all, because it's a bench sitter to get up into Typhlosion, to load up and accelerate energy onto your Arcanine. But yeah, it's still good to know about the attacks. So there is our there's our 4 Cyndaquil. Now look at our Quilava again. There's other Quilavas you can pick. Another one I actually tried the other Quilava at the start, but I preferred this one. So this Quilava has 60 hit points, just 10 more than the Cyndaquil, and it does Ember for fire and a colourless. And Ember reads, discard 1 fire energy card attached to Quilava in order to use this attack, and it does 30. And then Fire Wind for 2 fire. If your opponent has any benched Pokemon, choose one of them. Flip 2 coins. For each head, this attack does 10 damage to that Pokemon, and then it does 20 to the active. So it's pretty decent attack, can get some spread. The other Quilava uses charcoal counters, which I remember thinking was pretty cool at the time, but when I tested out this Quilava, I preferred it. So we are playing 4 copies, a really thick line of the Cyndaquil Quilava line, and also we're playing 4 copies of Typhlosion. So Typhlosion again, beautiful card, hard to do it justice here under this camera, but 100 hit points, Pokemon power, fire recharge, and this is the engine of the deck. If this is offline, you're struggling to load up your Arcanine with energy. Once during your turn, before you attack, you may flip a coin. If heads, attach a fire energy attached from your discard pile to one of your fire Pokemon, and this doesn't work if Typhlosion is asleep, confused, or paralyzed. So ideally, it's on a coin flip, like most things in this format. So ideally, you'd want to have at least 2 Typhlosion up to be getting any kind of consistent energy attachments off with fire recharge. We play 4 Typhlosion, so if you can get 3, then you're in a really good spot. Or if you're in a scenario where you have 2 up and you have the 3rd Cyndaquil down, just for later on in the game, it's really important. So for 4 fire, it does have an attack, Flame Burst. Flip a coin of heads. This attack does 60 damage plus 20 more damage and does 20 damage to Typhlosion. Tails, it does just a flat 60. So if heads, it'll do 80 but 20 to itself, and if tails, it'll just do 60. So I mean, it's okay. If you were stuck, we played 3 Blaine's Arcanine. It could be there could be scope to play a 4th copy, you know, in late game, but we do play things like the Nightly Garbage Run to get Pokemon back. But if you were stuck, you could load up onto a Typhlosion fire recharge onto itself, to get an attack off, maybe to take a prize. But so it's not totally unheard of, or it's not totally unviable, I guess. But yeah, I suppose it's good to know about these things, but it wouldn't be your go-to attack at all. It's all about that ability. We then play Professor Elm, 4 copies of Professor Elm, which is you know, your standard shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 7, but then you cannot play any more trainer cards for that turn, so you want to get off your other trainers before you drop Elm down. Then we play 3 copies of Misty's Wrath. This card actually features in Fraligator deck as well. So Misty's Wrath, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose 2 of those cards and put the rest of your hand into your hand. So again, like for Alligator, in that deck you're hoping to bin water energy. For Riptide, in this deck you're hoping to bin fire energy for your fire recharges. So Misty's Wrath is a really aggressive card at putting your trying to get fires into the bin, although obviously it can put you also in tight situations where you are forced to bin resources that you don't want. So it's all about I suppose, knowing when to Misty's Wrath in a game and keeping a very close eye on your resources. We then play 4 copies of Pokemon Trader, which is just a great card for swapping out Pokemon from your hand and finding the one that you want. Trade one of your basic Revolution cards in your hand for 1 basic Revolution from your deck. Showboat cards to your opponent and shuffle your deck afterwards. So, you know, if you have a Growlithe and you want a Cyndaquil, or you have an Arcanine and you're wanting a Typhlosion, vice versa, it just lets you kind of swap basically any Pokemon card in the deck that's in your hand out with one that's in the deck that you need. So it's a great way of tutoring out Pokemon. We then play 2 copies of Blaine, which is pretty cool. Again, I love the idea of, you know, if you're playing like Blaine's Arcanine, to have the Blaine card itself in the deck, that novelty. But it actually is quite works quite well here. So during this turn, instead of attaching for free, or your free energy card, you may attach 2 fire energy cards from your hand to a Pokemon with Blaine in its name. Playing additional copies of this card this turn has no effect. So again, you play Blaine and you let you attach 2 energy as your manual attachment. So it doesn't. So you can play Blaine, attach 2, and then you can still fire recharge for however many Typhlosions you have. So you can get loads of energy on the board if you're lucky with coin flips. Obviously you can't play back-to-back Blaines because it has no effect. But we do play 2 copies of Blaine anyway, just because if you can get 2 Blaines off, you know, it can be pretty devastating to get a Firestorm off with your Arcanine. We play Chaos Gym, 2 copies of it. Chaos Gym is a really annoying card, especially when you go against it. It can be even annoying when you play it down yourself. The idea of Chaos Gym is in the deck. This is kind of, and in many cases in this format, it's what a lot of decks try and tech in to give them some kind of a chance against Feraligatr. So Chaos Gym reads, whenever a player plays a trainer card other than a stadium card, he or she flips a coin. If heads, that player plays that card normally, but if tails, the player can't play that card. And if the card isn't put into play, the player's opponent may use the card instead if he or she does everything required in order to play the card. So basically, if heads, grand, use your trainer card. If tails, you don't use it and your opponent gets the opportunity to use it. So again, against Feraligatr, you'd be hoping to kind of stop their Misty's Wraths, their trash exchanges, all those cards that they use to kind of recycle their water energies and keep getting back-to-back attacks off with Feraligatr. So again, obviously it can obviously be detrimental to you, but again, it's just kind of a way of trying to slow down Feraligatr, because the deck is just so I suppose so strong in this format that it's kind of almost like a desperate move to try and do it, because it can hinder you as well. But it's kind of, in a lot of cases, the best of the options available to us. So we played 2 copies of Chaos Gym. Then, as we said before, we played a nightly garbage run. So 2 copies, choose up to 3 basic Pokemon cards, evolution cards, and or basic energy cards from your discard pile, show them to your opponent and shuffle your deck afterwards. So again, even though we only played 3 Blaine's Arcanine, we can get them back. So then we play a few one-offs. We play a one-of Double Gust. So again, if you have any bench Pokemon, your opponent chooses one of them and switches it with your active. Then if your opponent has any bench Pokemon, you choose one of them and switch it with his or her active. We play 1 copy of it. Again, it can be good to get around like annoying Clefas and things like that. We don't tend to play more, because if you're getting your Firestorms off, then you're knocking out everything. And again, there's no 2 prizers in this format, so it doesn't really matter what you're knocking out, you're still taking a prize. Obviously, there's times when you prefer to be knocking out maybe their attacker and they promote something else. So there could be scope perhaps for upping the counts of Double Gust, just to give you that versatility with Blaine's Arcanine. So that is possibly a card I would revisit and see about upping. But again, if the deck's doing what it's supposed to do, you're taking a prize every turn with Firestorm. But yeah, there are circumstances to say where maybe if there was a Croconaw or a Feraligatr not quite ready to go, and your opponent was protecting it on his or her bench, a Double Gust could kind of tutor it out or bring it up for you, and you could get rid of it before it becomes a real threat. 1 copy of Muscle Band, it's the French version of it here. So basically, if your Pokemon that Muscle Band is attached to would be knocked out, you flip a coin, and if it's heads, then you get to hold on to that Pokemon, and it has 10 hit points left. So basically, it just gives you a second chance to keep it alive. We play 1 copy of it. It's a really strong card in the format. We do play Metal Energy as well to buff out our Blaine's Arcanine's defense as well, but Muscle Band's just so good that there's no harm in playing 1 copy of it. Again, could be an argument to play more than 1, especially against Feraligatr. Maybe if you can survive it, you could you could knock it out the following turn. If, for instance, Typhlosion's Fire Recharge lets you down, and you don't get your Firestorm off, but you get a Heat Tackle off, and you have your band attached, Feraligatr hits into it, would knock it out. Usually band saves you, and then maybe next turn you get enough Fire Recharges going to get Firestorm off and knock out Feraligatr. So there is scope for it, for sure. And we've 1 copy of Goldberry as well. So at any time between turns, as long as there's at least 4 damage counters on the active Pokemon that Goldberry is attached to, you can remove 4 of the damage counters and then remove Goldberry as well. So Goldberry is just great healing card. It only comes into effect when you have at least 4 damage counters on you. But remember that Blaine's Arcanine does do damage to itself, 10 damage to itself. And then in between turns it heals off your Pokemon, so when you come into your turn, the damage has been healed, 40 damage has been healed, which is good. So now we play, also getting into our energies, we play 2 Metal Energies as we've talked about before. So damage done to the Pokemon Metal Energy is attached to is reduced by 10 after applying weakness and resistance. If the Pokemon Metal Energy is attached to isn't metal or steel, then whenever it damages a Pokemon, reduce the damage by 10. So we use this essentially to make Blaine's Arcanine tankier, for Heat Tackle to do 30, but at least it's not doing 10 to itself. So we're keeping its hit points up as much as we can, and then it sticks around longer and we get maybe more Firestorms off. So that's the idea with Metal Energy in the deck. Then we play a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 Fire Energy cards, simply because it takes 4 Fire Energies for your main attack, your best attack, to get off. You can't mix up the energies with colourless, it has to be fire, which can be tricky sometimes when you've already attached a metal to tank a hit with, to make Blaine's Arcanine more tankier, but that's where your fire recharge comes in, and maybe your Blaine trainer card comes in as well. So guys, that's been the deck profile for Blaine's Arcanine, one of my favourite decks in the format. I love the art in these cards. I love how the actual Blaine trainer card can be used with the Blaine's Arcanine. I love that type of continuity. But anyway, let me know if you've tried this deck. Let me know if you have a better list or a list that you prefer. Again, I would definitely think that there's scope for changing stuff in this list. Maybe a double gust could be upped. Maybe a band could even be upped as well. They're the kind of areas of the deck, I'd be considering changing. I used to only play 1 copy of Blaine, and I changed it to 2 because I just thought it was so powerful when you can get it off. We do play quite a thick Cyndaquil Quilavaline. I'm not sure I would trim it down really, because if you don't have Typhlosion out, then you're in serious trouble. Maybe you could and play a copy of Breeder, possibly. That could be actually a pretty okay idea to do, to get your Typhlosions out quicker. So yeah, that's possibly something I would consider playing around with. Anyway guys, let me know what you think of the deck list, and thanks for watching. This has been The Boss's Way.